fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are finishing out the first wave of the Marvel Spider-Man line for the Epic Hero series. We have the Web Blast Cycle and Iron Spider. I decided to do these two together just because it didn't really make sense to kind of do them separately, and like I said, this does round out Wave 1. And I do say Wave 1 because we have seen a hint that there's going to be a Wave 2. Mr. Stevie, who works for Hasbro, has an Instagram page, and he put up, I'll put it up here, this is a checklist of everything for the Epic Hero series. So it started with Spider-Man, then it went to the Mechasaurs, and then it went to Guardians of the Galaxy. There's going to be other stuff. And he has hinted that there are going to be more characters in the Spider-Man line. So I'm really hoping for villains, because so far we have Venom, and that's it. If you count all of the Epic Hero series, there's also Ultron, and that's 2 villains, and that's it for the everything Epic Hero series. So I'm hoping for Carnage, maybe Dr. Octopus. I'm sure we'll see Spider-Gwen, wouldn't be surprised. Just my own personal theory on that. Don't have any proof, or nothing's been announced, just conjecture, but really hoping for some more villains. In any case, we have the Web Blast Cycle, which does come with a new costume, Spider-Man. I kind of equate it to almost like the Amazing Spider-Man costume from that movie, because it looks very similar to the regular costume, but it's got some tweaks to it. You can see him poking out here the little window. And then, of course, the Iron Spider. Very excited to pick this one up. I could not find him for the longest time. That's why I did the video previously with the first 3 that I found, because there's only 4 in this first wave here, not counting the Cycle release. And I just could not find Iron Spider, and I finally found one at a Target, so I decided to throw him in here with the Web Blast Cycle. So yeah, packaging pretty standard for the Spider-Man Epic Hero series. Just have some really nice artwork here on the side. And then it shows you what is included. So you have the figure, you have his 3 robotic spider legs. I was going to say arms, but I guess they're really more like legs. And then here we have the Cycle and Spider-Man. I don't know why he has a cycle, I'll be honest with you. They love to give vehicles to these superheroes that don't really need them. Like, I remember I saw one time they gave like a car to Superman. They gave the Flash a motorcycle. These guys have their own means of transportation. Spider-Man, here he is, web swinging. He doesn't really need a motorcycle, but it's not the first time they've given him one. Looks like we have some missile firing action down here. And then this is actual size here on the back. So this is the Cycle and the figure. And these ridiculously massive missiles here, little web missiles. Load and launch. So there we go. I'm going to go ahead, get everything out of the packaging here, and then we'll take a closer look. So here they all are out of the packaging. We'll start here with Spidey in the center. As you can see, it's not quite the original costume. It really reminds me of the suit he wore, Andrew Garfield wore in the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. But honestly, I might just use it as like a Ben Reilly Spider-Man, unless they come out with like a full-on Scarlet Spider or something later on. I love that Scarlet Spider where he's kind of that, like, you know, orangish red with just the blue sweatshirt. I think that's such a cool costume. But if they do something like that, definitely grabbing that. But in the meantime, I think this is going to be my Ben Reilly Spider-Man. But it's pretty cool. I like it. Very nice design there. Arms are pretty much the same. You can see a little bit of difference down here in the feet, mostly on these boots. Articulation-wise, the head can swivel from side to side. It is a ball joint, so you can look up ever so slightly, look down ever so slightly. You have a hinge here in the shoulder, as well as a rotation. And then you have a hinge and a rotation in the elbow as well. Nothing in the waist. Kick out to the side with the hips. Kick pretty far forward. Can't really go that far back because he has kind of a butt flap there. And then you have a hinge and a rotation in the knee. And that's pretty standard for all of the figures in this line. Those articulation points, pretty much everyone has the same. But I do appreciate that they didn't just give us the regular Spider-Man a second time with the bike. They did give us a new exclusive figure for this, which is pretty cool. Although I guess if they had done Spider-Man, I could have passed on the bike. But I actually think the bike's pretty cool. Let's take a look at the bike here. I think it looks pretty cool. Spidey wants to check it out because he's fallen over here in the background. There we go. Nice little bit of molded in detail. Some texture here for this black section. Some engine bits molded in there. You have the seat here, which has some texture to it. There's a little bit of assembly required when you first take it out of the packaging. This translucent blue piece here is a separate piece. And you have to pop that on, and there's kind of like a little tab right there, and there's another one on this side. You have to make sure that you push it all the way down and keep pushing it until those can get around and latch on, because it's going to be real loose unless you do that. But once you do, really nice and solid. Cool little spider insignia there. Got some texture on the wheels. I don't think they're rubber, but they almost feel like they're rubber-ish. But I'm pretty sure it's just plastic. But they feel nice. Actually, 3 wheels, so you can see there's 2 here on the back, 1 on the front, which I was not expecting. But it does give it some nice stability, and it rolls pretty well. Further assembly, these 2 blue pieces here, they were loose in the box. You just snap them in here, and they snap in here as well. And then you can see this side has a spot to attach one of these web missiles. This piece on the back here is kind of loose on mine. I don't know if it's supposed to be. I can actually pop it all the way off. It almost looks like there's a little bit of a stress mark there, but it doesn't seem like this is overstretched in any way. So just kind of pop this back on and it kind of clicks into place. And it's not going to fall off or anything. It's just, you know, it's very loose, very wiggleable. You can see the buttons here. There's one on each side for the web missile and how this works. They do give you 2. One can clip on, the other one we can just pop right in there. Clicks into place, and then we squeeze these 2 buttons. And that is gone forever. Okay, I meant to hit my hand to stop the missile, and that didn't work out. Hey, that's why we have a spare. So we can take this one off, pop this in, click that into place, and then this time we will attempt to actually hit my hand. There we go. So it does fire very, very well. I mean, as the one that sailed off into the sunset will show you, it does fire very well. And I like the storage there for the second missile. Putting the figure on the bike, it has these little spots down here. You can see that there are pegs for the bottom of the feet. But it's kind of weird. Like, I'm not quite sure how you would actually get both of them to peg in. Honestly, you could probably just have maybe another character, if you wanted to catch a ride, you could just have them peg on this way. But I think trying to actually get the figure to fit on the bike and peg into those is a little difficult, but it's also not really necessary. If we just go ahead and bend him in kind of a normal sitting pose and put him on here, he kind of naturally, there's kind of like this little divot here for him to kind of rest in, and the legs will kind of naturally form around these like pieces here that this clips into, and he stays pretty well, not even clipped into anything. You could rotate the hands around to have him grab onto the handles, and then he definitely wouldn't go anywhere. But I don't even think you need to peg him in down there if you didn't want to. So yeah, he looks pretty good riding the bike. I like that. Pretty cool. So let's move on next to the Iron Spider. Iron Spider looks very good. Of course, he is going to have all the same articulation that I detailed out earlier. And then he has these 3 spider legs, which just peg into these 3 spots here on his back. So if you want to pretend he has them retracted and you can just display Spider like this, then you don't have to deal with them. But overall, I like the design. I think the eyes look great. The spider here on the chest looks really good, painted around to the back. And then he's kind of got the gauntlets and the boots here, which you can tell they had to kind of cake on the yellow paint because it's over the red plastic. But I think they did a pretty good job with it. And I think that looks pretty nice. And then when it comes to the legs, so they're kind of weird because if you look at these, they're kind of beveled and it almost makes it look like they're supposed to go into a specific spot. But it's kind of hard to tell because, you know, the connection ports here all look the same. So I think just kind of judging by the way they're bent, you can kind of tell that like this one is supposed to go over this shoulder and then this one is kind of supposed to go over the other shoulder. Although this one doesn't want to peg in all the way. And it might be I'm not lining something up properly, but it pegs in enough. And then I think this one is actually longer than the others. And I think this one is definitely meant to be the bottom one down here. And then that kind of pokes between his legs there. So I think that looks really cool. I like this a lot. I like the fact that you can retrieve, just pop them out to pretend they're retracted. But then, of course, just peg them in very simply so he can utilize them. I think he looks great. Really nicely done. And I like that it's like a different shade of red. You can kind of tell here that it's more of a like maroonish red, which I think definitely fits better for Iron Spider than kind of the classic Spider-Man red. So I think they really nailed the color palette there. I think that's pretty good. And just lastly, real quick, I wanted to do a comparison with original costume Spider-Man here, just so you can really see the differences between these two suits. They're pretty similar, but you can see that the blue on the chest is very different. I would say the boots are very similar. Again, the bottoms are painted and then the insides there are painted. Legs are pretty much the same, and I would say the arms are pretty much the same, although he's got, you know, the web shooting hand, and this one has 2 regular hands so he can grab onto the bike. But if we compare these 2 arms, they're pretty much identical there. But I still think both of them look really cool, and I love having Iron Spider in the mix as well. These both turned out pretty great. Honestly, the Epic Hero series has been pretty solid so far. These are no exception. Iron Spider's looking pretty great. Really like the color scheme. They nailed that. Paint application's looking sharp. You know, standard 4-inch figures, so the articulation, nothing surprising, but they're good little figures. I really like them quite a bit. I think the spider leg accessories work well. It is a little interesting that, like, the actual leg connectors themselves look like they're kind of beveled in an angle, like they're only going to peg in one way, but then the actual connector ports on his back don't have anything like that, or if they do, they're very deep into the body and I can't see them. So I'm wondering if that was kind of a design thing that was scrapped halfway through, but still kind of carried over. But it works well. I think he works well here, and he looks pretty good. The Web Blast cycle, I think, turned out pretty good. I don't usually go for vehicles for Spider-Man because he has his own mode of transportation, but I think it's kind of neat. Definitely wasn't expecting it to be 3 wheels, but I think that does add some stability. You know, you don't have to worry about it falling over. It doesn't need a kickstand or anything like that. Rolls pretty well. I think the color scheme's great. Obviously, Spider-Man's color scheme. And the missile firing gimmick works almost too well because I don't know if I'm ever going to find that missile again. But that works well. Like I said, this little piece on the back's a little loose, but that's really not a big deal whatsoever. He fits well on the bike. He's definitely not going anywhere. I have him holding the handlebars now. You couldn't pry him off of that if you wanted to. So, yeah, I think this all turned out pretty good. Honestly, like I said, the entire Epic Hero series so far has been great. Definitely looking forward to Wave 2 for Spidey here. Please, crossing my fingers, we need some more villains. Please, more villains. I'd love Dr. Octopus. I expect Carnage, probably Spider-Gwen for sure. I don't know who else they could do. Maybe 2099 Spider-Man, because we have Across the Spider-Verse coming up, so maybe some characters from that. But definitely, I'd love a Green Goblin, honestly. We need some more villains, please. But yeah, these are great. Definitely recommend checking them out. I got them both at Target. I think the single figures are $10.99, and I think the bike set was $19.99, which I think is pretty fair. So definitely recommend checking these out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks so much for watching.